Hey,
Okay.
it's Mike Brennan, and we're doing another MITech TV today. Today is Monday, November 6th. Where has the year gone, Matthew?
I don't know, but it is 5/6 over or thereabouts now.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
we have one of your compatriots coming on here from our first segment from Lawrence Technological University. Why don't you introduce Scott and set this up so the viewers know what we're going to be talking about?
Well, with us today is Scott Shall. He is professor of architecture at Lawrence Tech and someone who's been into the future of housing, sustainability, and issues like that for a long time now. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be able to talk about this.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the project that you are working on now. I know you have you are co-owner and co-founder of a company called Home, that's spelled HOUM, that is about to construct a very unique house on Cochrane Street in Detroit's North Corktown neighborhood. So tell us a little bit about the history of Home and what you'll be doing in the weeks ahead.
Well, I'd be glad to. Home was started 2019, and it was grounded on research looking into housing. As we all know, we do have a bit of a housing crisis here in the United States, especially around affordable or even cost-effective housing that impacts a lot of low, middle, and even upper middle class Americans. And I was looking at the housing crisis and how I, as an architect, might be able to address it. And one of the things I noticed in my research was how a number of the methods we're using to create housing right now are quite outmoded, haven't been innovated quite a bit in quite a long time. And this stands in sharp contrast to the auto industry or other manufacturing sectors, where there's been just so many innovations over the last several decades, allowing for greater efficiency, reducing waste, improving the kind of product performance. And you just don't see that same thing within the field of architecture. So I immediately started to look at how we might leverage things like generative design and digital fabrication, industrial scale production, anything I can get my hands on to try to figure out a smarter way to build. And that's really is trying to find a way that we can be a little smarter with the manner in which we construct housing so as to make housing more affordable, sustainable, effective, and beautiful. And that's the goal of Home. And it was founded on that principle. And the house that you referenced in Cochrane represents our very first actualized construction. And so we're very excited about it. It is a sort of proof of concept, I guess you'd say, for a long-standing research agenda. And when we broke ground, I think many of us wondered if it would ever happen, but it did. It did a couple weeks ago. And with any luck, there'll be a lovely family living in there at the end of April.
Okay. So what is it about the fabrication, about the construction techniques used in this house that makes it unique?
Well, first of all, I guess maybe the most obvious is how we're leveraging offsite construction and digital fabrication to really bring the cost, environmental footprint, and time commitment for housing production down. On the average in Detroit right now, for a house of about the quality and size we're looking at, it's about 11 to 12-month proposition to build the house. We are actually going to finish this house in between 6 or 7 months, which would be a sharp decrease in the average. Average housing in terms of price point for the house of the quality we're looking at, it's between 250 to 75, 300. We're going to do ours for under $200 a square foot. And we're going to accomplish that while also increasing substantially the environmental benefits of the house. We are using, and I'll explain the products probably a little later on, but we're using some very innovative products for the building envelope that's going to decrease air infiltration, increase insulation, to the point that the average heating bill right now for this 2,400 square foot house is about $80 a month. That's the estimate currently. We came really close, in fact, of seeking passive house certification and might have been able to get it. But as our first house, we didn't want to overburden this very first concept home with that. But we do think that that is an achievable goal and one that we will go for. Passive house, just so you know, is probably one of the most rigorous standards of certification that houses can achieve. And it is specifically about how well you use the energy infused the house to create comfort for the occupants. So the house itself is predicated, one of the chief innovations is what we call affectionately the core of the house. What we've done is if you look at a home, all of the walls have a certain degree of complexity because you have piping, you might have electrical work, you might have structure, there might be insulation. And in many, many homes, these complex walls are spread all over the house. What we've done is we've consolidated those more complicated walls into the smallest possible footprint, so as to allow the vast majority of the walls that define the home to be a much simpler structure. In order to achieve that, we had to leverage the precision of industrial manufacturing, digital fabrication, so that we could have intertwining pipes and conduit and structure and all of those things where they don't get in each other's way. We can plan it perfectly ahead of time, all without increasing the time associated with building these things in the kind of detailed manner that we're describing. And both the other asset is both that as well as the envelope can be built off-site, which gives an incredible benefit in terms of the timeline. That's how we're able to reduce by almost 50% the timeline associated with housing construction.
So is this
Yeah,
kind of a modular home then, or what exactly is it? I'm trying to understand.
So it's a really good question. It is, well, it depends how large you allow me to consider a module. And that, yes, everything is modular. And so, like, as an example, the building envelope is being manufactured in modules in Cleveland with a wonderful manufacturer working on a product that has a high R value, manufactured offsite, and can be installed upon delivery to site in about 2 or 3 days. So this house will go from basically a slab of concrete in a sea of dirt into a fully formed house inside of 2 or 3 days. This would allow, obviously, all of the subsequent construction to be performed in the dry and climate-controlled conditions, which has all sorts of benefits to both quality control as well as efficiency. So that's a module of sorts. It's a module of a wall, right? And it kind of shows up on site as a 4-foot by 12-foot thing that then is attached to the next 4-foot by 12-foot thing, and off you go. The same with the digitally fabricated core I mentioned. Its flat pack is probably something closer to kind of architectural parlance. If you want to imagine, think of IKEA, right? Where everything shows up in a box, and then you get your handy Allen wrench out and you swear to the gods and you assemble the things, right? And then you always have like a missing bit at the end, but you're fine with that. We hopefully won't have any missing bits as this thing is assembled. But it's the same basic premise where we digitally fabricate everything off-site very precisely, and then it fits together in a way that we've digitally modeled and actually include instruction manuals for everyone assembling it so they actually know where everything might need to live.
So you talked earlier about the use of advanced construction materials for this house. So tell us a little bit about some of the materials that are being used and why they're advanced and what benefits they have.
Well, again, some of them, so we're referencing, again, the building envelope. It's a material that's been around for a while. It's a particular polymer-based product. It's a foam product, actually, that they're using for most of the walls of the house. But what's interesting about this particular foam-based product is it's 100% recyclable. A lot of the kind of plastic or foam-based products that you see out there, once they're in the universe, well, that's it, right? They're kind of there, and they're going to eventually pollute this planet, right? Leading to greater waste, and it's a problem we have to face together as a people. In contrast, this particular system can be completely reconstituted and reused over and over and over and over again. And so there's a particular material innovation there. I think most of the other things, we're actually trying to use very common materials, and that's one of the reasons we're able to achieve great environmental benefit while also achieving a radical reduction in cost, about 20–25% in cost of the house, is we're able to do that because we're not using super fancy innovative materials by and large. We are using very high efficiency energy equipment. And so the way that we're heating and cooling the house is going to use less energy to achieve greater ends. We're including a radiant floor slab heating system, which is a wonderful system where you actually run the heat in the slab of the floor itself. So the heat emanates up through you because heat likes to rise. So it generally keeps the heat where the body is. So more using smart techniques and technologies from all over the place and bringing them together. And I think that's what we really contribute is we're not inventing anything. We're just bringing a lot of really smart things together in a way that's not been done before. And it's hopefully leading to a product that has a high degree of intelligence. Not because we do, but I guess we're friends with lots of people who are.
So tell me a little bit about the building site. I know that presented some unique challenges to you, and that was something you actually sought out kind of on purpose.
Yeah.
And so what form, what shape is the house going to take?
So the building site itself is in Corktown here in Detroit. We're really excited to be building in that area. It's a neighborhood that's received a lot of attention of late, and a lot of really interesting work going up there. So we're excited to be a part of that assembly. But we did choose a very, very narrow lot for our first house, and that was intentional. We are attempting to design in a way where it's not the traditional approach of architecture, where an architect creates a custom product for an individual client, and then they move to the next client. It's a new custom product. We're actually trying to design this as a system. And as we design a single house, our mind is actually thinking about house 300 and house 600, and how house 600 becomes smarter through the work we're doing in house 100. And we have that conversation all the time. Saying, okay, this is something we've learned. This is how the second one will be better. And then when we do 4 at once, how all of them will improve from that kind of scale. And so for us, a really, really narrow site presented a wonderful difficulty, meaning if you can design for a really confining condition, then when you have a less confining condition, chances are that same strategy will also work. Whereas the inverse is certainly not true.
So when you get into scale, is that also going to reduce the price? Did you get as economies of scale, I assume? Yes.
Right. And that's one of the reasons we're prioritizing digital fabrication, offsite construction, because the imprint in terms of time and money on those modalities of construction will, when you scale up, will be far greater. And that stands in sharp contrast with, like, let's talk about stud-based construction, which we still use. Like, if you're building a house and the studs show up on site, well, they're going to be, 2 by 4 by 8 feet long or 12 feet long, whatever you spec. When you go build that second house, you're getting the same stud arriving onto the site, the same 4 by 8 sheet of OSB, whatever it may be. It's no more or less intelligent than the OSB that populated the first site that you were working on. In contrast, when we're digitally fabricating and we have a digital model of every component that we're building into the house, well, the second one we built actually does have smarter, more detailed componentry arriving on site, because that componentry is learned from the first house and the third house and the fourth house. And so it's very much like you see in the automotive industry, where the first couple trucks off the assembly line might not be sold, but they sure tell you a lot about how the next set of trucks might actually become a little bit better.
Is this machine learning or AI, or what is this?
So we're fascinated with AI, and I actually have a research agenda that's still here at LTU, where I'm looking at how AI might be leveraged to allow communities to have greater input in the development of neighborhoods. And I'm pursuing an NSF grant with some colleagues here to actually be able to fund that and pursue that. At home, we are fascinated by AI, but right now we're focused much more on generative design, where you are developing algorithms and scripts to help you make smart decisions based on things like where the sun is, where view angles might be, et cetera, knowable factors. And so at this point, we haven't had to leverage the intelligence of AI yet, but we're actually pretty amped to do so when required.
Okay. And you're looking to build a lot of these houses, right? Based on what you learned from this first one, you would like to turn this into an ongoing sort of development business for more affordable housing, right?
That's absolutely true, but we don't want to do it in the same cookie cutter way that so many of our suburbs are done, where each house is a kind of an identical version of the one preceding it, maybe a slightly different shade of taupe, but the same house by and large. Like, that's not. Our houses can be custom tailored to each site in context because of the algorithm I mentioned, because the solar positioning and where the trees are and where the views are and how your neighbors' houses are built, the form they take, all these things change from neighborhood to neighborhood or neighborhood. And I know that housing, at least the housing at the price point we're talking about, can't accommodate the expense of architectural design services in the kind of traditional way. But if some of the intelligence of the architect can be embedded in an algorithm that could generate a result that showcases that intelligence in seconds, then we might be able to get a better position, a more contextual version of this kind of mass production that we've seen so often in our suburbs.
All right, we're coming to the end of the segment, so tell us a little bit about how people can learn more about Home and what you're doing.
Well, I think the best way is to go to our website. It's ourhome, or OURHOUM.com. If you're on Instagram, you could follow us under the same handle. Just put a underscore between R and home. And you can also reach us. We're currently partnering with 3 Squared International that has a history of working with container-based architecture, and they're kind of broadening, and they've embraced us and really kind of helped us along. So you can go to the 3 Squared website as well and find out more information about us there.
Unmute. Rue Phillips, co-founder and president of Skill Fusion, a customer success platform for electric vehicle service equipment operators and maintenance suppliers. So my first question for you, Rue, is what's the issue plaguing EV charging infrastructure?
So the main issue is reliability. You know, there's hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on electric vehicle infrastructure, but they're not reliable. I do a EV chat podcast, and I interview CEOs and OEM manufacturers, and I ask them for a score of 1 to 10 of what they think the reliability of our infrastructure is. And I've not got above 5. This is interviewing everybody within the EV community. So we've got a bad reputation out there for pulling up to an EV charging station and expecting it to work, Mike.
One more issue with EVs. Yes, that's what we need, right, Matt?
Absolutely. Well, that doesn't, I mean, you know, when you pull up to a gas pump, you pretty much know it's going to work, but apparently that's not yet the case with EV chargers, right?
Indeed it is. Now, obviously, you can blame the equipment, but it's more than the equipment. There's obviously a shortage of labor out there, and the reason for that is that the general electrical community, the electricians, have yet to embrace and adopt what's going on out there as far as the awareness of if you build it, they will come. Well, right now they're a little hesitant on building it.
So why is that? I mean, it would seem like this would be a fertile ground for, say, the community colleges to get into, but I guess that opens the door for your company, right? For your business.
It does indeed. And even where the awareness is presently, it's towards the installation. There's a lot of contractors getting into the business of installation. But O&M service and repair is an afterthought, guys. I was in the solar industry for decades, and I formed an O&M service company because the tens of thousands of electrical contractors wanted to install the systems, but no one was interested in a $250 service call to go and flip the breaker and turn it back on again.
Boy, that's certainly not true at other kinds of home repair, but I guess solar's young enough that it hasn't quite kicked in yet, huh?
Indeed, and it's the same for electric vehicles. Sadly, it's the same for the electric vehicle industry. We've got to change this reputation towards the reliability factor. Not just change the reputation, there's expectations. There are obligations within the NEVI, mentions and support.
Yeah, talk about NEVI. Tell us what it is and what it means for the industry.
So NEVI, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, it's an incentive, it's a motivation from our government that says if we're going to hit the 2030 milestones from the manufacturers that are putting EV, electric vehicles on the street, then there has to be some support. So NEVI is implementation, if you like, of funds, government funds. But moreover, it's towards the installation of a nationwide network, an infrastructure of electric vehicle chargers. It can be said that there will be an electric vehicle charger every 5 miles. By 2030, range anxiety won't exist because there'll be chargers everywhere.
We hope anyway. Yes. So you recently launched Skill Fusion. What is Skill Fusion, and how is the company working to fix all these myriad of issues that you've outlined?
So Skill Fusion is a customer service enhancement software. We use VR and AI. So
I
we're
was wondering
using
what VI was, but go ahead. Yes.
exactly. Oh my goodness. So it's a customer enhancement software whereby we are training and certifying and educating a nationwide network of service providers of talent, if you like, and we're creating a ready for work workforce to enhance the uptime of the EV infrastructure. So basically what we are, in simple terms, we are creating a nationwide network of ready to work EV charger technicians and electricians.
So how long is the program? What's the format?
So we have a 9-hour class. There's different classes, obviously, to the extent of the level of skill that you have. If you want to just go and do the basic operations and maintenance, we have what's called an EDT program. We have also a program where if you are an electrician and you want to get certified to do the service and repair. Now, remember, there's a lot of electricians that know all about installation of level 2s and DC fast chargers, but service, operations, and maintenance and repair is a different thing. So we offer that also. We offer a recertification. So basically, we're validating, vetting, and training to a molecular, granular scale, if you like, to suit the industry. There are O&M service providers out there right now that are literally, they're desperate for talent. So we're a repository, a database for that talent.
So what's the cost of these programs that you're offering?
They can go as low as $350. What we're trying to do right now is make it, really appealing and reachable to the individual. Our aim, I have a passion, gents, for this. I've been doing electric vehicles for 27 years. I was involved in the ZEV mandate in California in 1990, somewhere around there. So I have a passion for this industry. And first and foremost, I want to address the problem. I want to make sure that it's reachable. So the cost is pretty low to get certified.
Okay, so I detect a little lilt in your English there. Are you from the UK originally or somewhere else?
I was from the UK. I came to the US in 1986. I kept my accent.
I have a daughter-in-law who's from Suffolk, so Bury St. Edmunds, if you know where that is.
Down there. It's beautiful down there. I get to travel throughout the US. I mean, we have an office here in Seal Beach, Southern California, and headquartered in Metro Detroit. So I get to see our beautiful land here.
And you have some fairly well-known co-funding partners. I've looked at the list. Why don't you talk a little bit about who else is helping with this?
Yes, indeed. My partner and co-founder, Elena Farnsworth, has been in the automotive industry for decades, well known. Dave Packard, he was the founder of Clipper Creek. Clipper Creek, ladies and gents, is one of the largest EVSE, electric vehicle charging equipment manufacturers. So we got some pedigree. We got Alison Malik, who again has been involved with the automotive industry. We aim to make a noise. And that's exactly what we're doing so far. We're reaching out to the manufacturers and we're saying, if you had access to a nationwide network of installers and talent and service repair, what would you have them do? What's the pain points for you in order to make the uptime? And we'll talk about the uptime in a minute. But and so we're in correspondence and we're in tight negotiations and talks with the major players in the EV industry.
So let's talk about the uptime a little bit. What are the industry achieving now, and where do you want to get it to be?
Well, what it's achieving now is sadly, like I said, the score of reliability and accessibility is at best a 6.
Hmm.
At best a 6. So put it at 60%. The mandates and expectations will be 97%. So 97% of our infrastructure needs to be working. Let's put that in a comparison to the solar industry. Again, I was in the renewable space for a long time, and when we installed service to maintain the solar system, it had a 99% expectation, guys, which meant that if the sun is out, it has to be operable and working 99% of the time. So what we're trying to achieve in the automotive industry with the electrification is a 97% uptime. We can only do that by a trained, certified, and competent workforce.
All right. So I bet a lot of folks want to find out more about what you're up to. Why don't you give us that information, how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, indeed. So you can reach us on our website, which is www.skillfusion.com. Also on LinkedIn. Each one of us are on LinkedIn. That's myself, Rue Phillips. We have a LinkedIn page, and we'd be happy to discuss more about our company and how we want to make a difference in this industry.
So one last question for me. Do you have, I mean, is this a new enough field that there aren't really any estimates of what the incomes will be like for these technicians, or do you have some kind of industry benchmark what people can expect? Because I know that's always, you know, that's how you get people into these training programs, is to say, hey, this is going to grow faster than the background of the economy, and here's what you'll get paid.
Well, and that's great. An electrical career is a great career for anyone who wants to get into it. What Skill Fusion is going to offer is a trajectory to whatever level that you want to get into, whether it's an apprenticeship, whether you know, it's a full-on journeyman electrician. So we are a trajectory. We will place you in certain components according to your skill set, according to where you want to be. But it's an exciting, a rewarding career.
All right. Thanks very much, Rue Phillips, co-founder and president of Skill Fusion, talking about the future of the electric vehicle charging industry, specifically operations and maintenance support for the nation's rapidly growing EV charger infrastructure. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Anthony Freed, as most of you know, watch this show, I also have another media group where we cover the business of cannabis. And Anthony is a longtime player in that space. And my business partner in that is Dan Keelan, who used to work with Matt at WWJ. And so actually, Anthony came to me and I laid it on Dan. He has this idea for a video series that maybe something as it builds up could go on the Roku channel or something that would involve infused cannabis cooking, cannabis-infused cooking. And so he has now joined with my other business partner the main product is called 420post.com, but we also have one that's called Sparks and Recreation, which is aimed at the cannabis tourism industry. So Anthony's kind of fits into both. Talk a little bit about it. You want to be the Anthony Bourdain of cannabis-infused cooking or something, I think you said, right?
To me, it's about, you know, where we are with the cannabis industry in my mind right now is we're going mainstream. And there's an opportunity there to help educate people. There's a lot of my contemporaries that, you know, when you try to tell them there are more people using cannabis now just because it's legal, depending on where you live, that weren't doing it before because they can't wrap their head around what you mean someone wouldn't do something because it's illegal. But there are a lot of people that are trying it for the first time, and every single one of us gets sick. Not a single one of us is immune from that. Our government has had patents on cannabis-related treatments for decades now. We know that GW Pharmaceutical exists and does very well on the old stock ticker. They produce pharmaceutical products that target even some pediatric diseases. So this is about educating, letting the mainstream know how to cook an infused dish, maybe even based on their culture, their location, proximity. I know we're going to be doing a show in Vegas. We're going to be doing a show in Portland. So it's about gravitating towards the local culture, the local stories of activism in regards to cannabis, and making sure everyone knows how to dose these products as they're making them in their kitchen, so they don't whack grandma out with a 200 milligram brownie accidentally.
Whoops. Granny's sleeping now.
Grandma is sleeping now. See grandma again in 72 hours.
Yeah, that was actually my suggestion for the title of this thing, was Beyond Brownies, because almost everybody's heard of pot brownies, but there's a lot of other ways to use marijuana in cooking, right? I mean, I remember back in my student days that someone slipped a little into stuffing at a friend's Thanksgiving party, and that was actually really nice. And I mean, it even tasted good.
As far as taste goes, if you look at a sommelier, and I understand what goes into different agricultural products. At the end of the day, if you're manufacturing at a high enough level, you're essentially a farmer. So it's understanding some of those, soil contents, the amount of sun time that a plant gets, its cannabinoid, its terpene profile, how that's going to affect the flavor. A lot of times you're using concentrates for this because it affects the recipe in such a small way, because it's just a gram or so, usually less. So something about the size of a nickel is going to go in and medicate this dish. Some of those concentrates are flavorless and odorless, but other ones have a citrus, have a earthiness to them that can be paired with certain dishes. And so it's really about teaching that. And I still, to this day, I know it's a dying art form, but my family, at the end of the day, we still gather around the kitchen table. We still talk about our days. To me, food is a time machine. It's not only expression of culture, but it's an expression of what goes into what made our soul. When I make beef and noodles, I am transported back to my grandmother's kitchen every time. And so even though my youngest daughter didn't get to know my grandmother, she knows my grandmother's cooking. So I want that to be part of what it means to be mainstream in America with cannabis. We can go to a college football game, go blue, and drink all day. There's safe means of consumption in other ways, and much safer than alcohol. So to promote not only how to do it, but how to put it into your favorite dishes. And there'll be, these stories will be set in a backdrops that have really unique and interesting companies that'll help support this education process. And I think it's something that's really, really needed. And people need to understand that cannabis users are doctors, lawyers, fathers, brothers, daughters. They come from all walks of life. The level and sophistication of the scientific methods that are utilized to produce these concentrates. There's chemical engineering now that comes into play. 35,000 jobs and $3 billion in revenue in Michigan alone this year. So it's promoting all of that and being a good steward for the industry, and you know, again, making sure grandma has the appropriate size brownie at the end of the day.
That's it. Help her get to sleep. So the idea, though, is he's gonna. You'd be surprised how many chefs there are in the state that do infused cooking, and that's part of what you want to do, right, Anthony? Is you want to feature those folks?
Absolutely. You know, cooking is a dying art form, and cooking with great ingredients is something that's even, you know, less done. So to me, if you're going to take the time to you know, make something that's infused, let's not put it on a Triscuit, right? Let's you know, get a nice piece of salmon and blacken it, and pair it with some asparagus and a lemon butter sauce that's infused. So it's really a chance to showcase the talents of some of the amazing chefs that are doing this across the state already. And the second and third most search terms are cannabis tourism and, you know, cooking behind where do I go to, you know, find a dispensary. Those are the second and third most search terms in regards to cannabis. So there's obviously a public demand for a lot of this information as well. But yeah, I'm really excited to work with some of Michigan's top chefs and candy makers. I never thought that I'd have this opportunity, so I am really enjoying planning it out. I really look forward to everything that we do next year.
So what form is this content going to take? Is it going to be website, magazine, videos, all of the above? You know, basically, what are you planning to do, and who will be featured in it? Will it be just chefs, or will it be, you know, do-it-yourself recipes, or, you know, what are you thinking at this point?
So you know, we're right now, you know, with the Vegas show, which will probably end up being the first one that we film. We're looking at interviewing a gentleman who just got the very first contract in over 100 years with zigzag papers outside of tobacco. And he's also invented a software program that allows you to propagate a genetic without actually having to do a pheno hunt, meaning you won't have to pop 300 seeds to determine what the given effect, flavor, and smell of a particular plant is, as there's thousands and thousands of different phenotypes to grow. It'll also furthermore allow you to cross-pollinate, do a cross-pollination simulation so that you'll know what breeding two different phenotypes would bring, which knocks out about 2 to 3 years of you know, growing out plants. You know, and then doing so in addition to interviewing someone like that, we'll look at what's going on in the Las Vegas scene, which is one of the most vibrant and inclusive scenes in the country. They do a lot of one-off products there. They do a lot of R&D there because it's such a transient city. It's one of the only places you can sell a $1,000 pre-rolled cannabis cigarette. So it's a very unique market. I'm right now working on getting Planet 13 to allow us to tour them. They are a all-in-one experience, submersive kind of dispensary where you can see a lot of the products be made like you're at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. But again, just showcasing, you know, the local culture, food, and you know, environment when it comes to the cannabis industry in general. And we'll be doing that in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is, you know, I consider my hometown. You know, so we're looking at, you know, finding a tour guide there, just like we do anywhere else, and looking at the city to explore it, talk a few stories while we do, and then get down to making something absolutely amazing that could be made at a tailgate.
So, and this is all a work in progress. we're going to kind of just see how things go and what the interest level is with the various consumers of our product here, or of our podcast, video, all the above, and then see where we go from there. But again, getting back to we want to really highlight a lot of the Michigan-based chefs that are dabbling in this space. And it doesn't have to necessarily be THC. It could be CBN and CBDs and all sorts of things like that, right?
Yeah. Part of this is, to teach the different things that you can fold into your ingredients and the different reasons why you may want to do that. Not everyone wants to use THC. CBD is readily available in different forms that can be easily added. But we really want to teach, what the proper way to, amount to put in these ingredients so that they don't have too much.
Okay. And again, he'll be going to Vegas. The MI Biz Daily has their big event out there. I think it was early December, right?
Yeah, MJ BizCon. It takes up every square inch of the Las Vegas Convention Center, both sides. I even 15 years ago when we were doing ballot initiatives and getting signatures, I never imagined they were going to let us take over Vegas for a week. So that is essentially what it is. It has become the biggest, most important cannabis event in the world, not just here in America. People from all over the world will be there. Like 35,000 vendors, after parties for 5 days, and 3 days of exhibit. If they sent 10 of me, I still wouldn't really be able to adequately cover the entire event. It is overwhelming.
Yeah, Matt covered the Consumer Electronics Show for a long time for WWJ, right, Matt?
Yeah, and that was the same kind of deal. That was 140,000 people at a trade show, including 10,000 journalists, and every square inch of not only the convention center, but every hotel ballroom you could think of as well. It sounds like this show is becoming the CES of the cannabis industry.
It absolutely is. Literally all the hotels on the Strip will be involved in one way or another. There's a lot of competition cups that will be held there over the week to determine best quality in any given category. It's a very exciting time for the industry that's still basically in its infancy.
All right.
Thank you so much.
How do they reach out to you, real quick?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I could be reached at anthony.freed@sensymag.com or afreedmind78@gmail.com. We are currently looking for great cities in Michigan and elsewhere to provide a really interesting backdrop. We're looking for success stories and people that have overcome obstacles to get into the industry. And of course, we're looking for just really talented chefs that have some amazing dishes that they would like to infuse and get recognition for.
Anyway, so Tricia Thomas is the dean of the Grand Valley State University Nursing School. And recently, the school received a big federal grant to improve nursing workforce readiness through simulation. Clearly, this caught my eye since we do technology. So welcome, Tricia.
Nice to meet you, Mike. Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about this. Fill in the gaps of what I just said. That was the real Cliff's Notes version. So talk a little bit more in detail about what this money is. You got it from the feds, and it's going to be used for the simulation process. But beyond that, I'm not real clear.
So let me just identify a couple things, Mike. Right, my name is Tricia Thomas, and I am the dean in the College of Nursing, but our simulation center is actually an interprofessional simulation center housed within our college in terms of operational reporting, but actually utilized by disciplines, nursing, all of our allied health disciplines, engineering, computing science, and social work. It's about 68,000 square feet, and I've got my colleagues here who can really address and answer those important simulation questions. But to your point, the Simulation Center actually applied for this grant, and I'm delighted to have my colleagues with me who are the experts in simulation and clinical practice. We really were trying to address several pressing needs in the nursing industry. So I think it's well known that there's a tremendous workforce shortage of nurses across the Michigan and across the country, in fact. And one of the things that we've identified, both with our colleagues in practice, but equally with our students, is that many of them choose to leave the profession about 18 months after graduation, in large part because of a perceived lack of readiness to do the contemporary practice that's required in today's workforce environment. So we've been very fortunate at Grand Valley to have exceptional partnerships with large health systems in West Michigan. We've been equally fortunate to have significant support, both from the university and from our surrounding community, to build an impressive state-of-the-art simulation center that can be used by all of these health disciplines to help prepare our students. And when I say prepare our students, what I mean is the gift in a simulation center is students come together to learn. They actually use simulation to enact clinical decision-making and clinical judgment in a lab setting. I'm going to have my colleagues talk about the fidelity in the mannequins because they are much more adept than I am. But it also allows us to have students actually enact nursing practice and observe nursing practice so that when they lead the simulation, they can walk through a debriefing exercise and learn both by what they did, but also by watching their classmates and colleagues as a faculty guides them through a conversation and learning. So we are very fortunate here in West Michigan to have this amazing center. And what our practice partners were telling us loud and clear for about the last decade or so, actually, Mike, is that we have very capable and bright, talented nurses that graduate both from our undergraduate and our graduate programs. And they struggle to be able to keep up with the demands of contemporary practice. And one of the things that we recognized is that our students, while very capable in managing one patient or one clinical situation, when we begin to add complexity to that in what would replicate a very dynamic clinical environment, it is more difficult for them. Likewise, they're not able to learn together and with one another and to debrief. So when we put students in simulation, we want them to learn how to engage in practice, high risk, low volume clinical situations, but also to recognize the support team around them, including medical assistants and other interprofessional team members. This HRSA Workforce Diversity Grant, which is what we're really talking about, actually affords us $1.5 million over the next 3 years to create multiple patient simulations that allow students to actually have clinical experiences with 3 different patients all at the same time, much as they would if they were in clinical practice. I'm going to talk a little bit about the workforce element in this. What we recognized is we have a lot of shortcomings in clinical practice, in large part because of policies that have been in place for many years that actually discourage people from underrepresented groups and or restrict those individuals from being considered for nursing school. So 2 of the things we want to do is really talk about student and workforce diversity and really begin to identify ways in which we're able to encourage them to engage with us in simulation and education, but also to prepare those who may work or live in underserved areas throughout Michigan to learn with us so that they can go back and practice in their home communities. So there are many things that we're hoping to accomplish with this work. I really do want to pause and allow you to meet my colleagues who are experts, both clinically with simulation, but equally with the technology that's going to be used, Mike, which is what I really think you're aiming to look at. I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this with you and your audience as we go forward.
All right.
So yeah,
Matt?
let's have the folks that I'm seeing here elsewhere on the screen go one at a time and introduce yourselves. How about my namesake here, Matthew? We'll start with you.
Matt Culver, work as our operations manager here in the simulation center.
And Douglas?
Yep, my name is Douglas Ayers. I work here as the simulation technology manager. Happy to answer any questions related to that, clinically wise.
Okay. And last but not least.
I'm Kelly Clark, one of the multimedia managers here in the Sim Center.
Okay. So I was curious. I mean, healthcare has used mannequins for a long time. Even when I was a kid, there was good old Resusci Annie teaching you how to do CPR, right? So talk a little bit about the increased sophistication of the electronics and of the technology in some of these mannequins.
Yeah, man, happy to take that. So mannequins, like you've said, they've been around for a long time. However, the fidelity or the lifelike of these mannequins has only grown. Today, we were using mannequins today to represent a postpartum bleed or postpartum hemorrhage after a birth of a child. So students had to manage and recognize that this mannequin's vital signs were decreasing as she was having blood loss. So just being able to get a blood pressure change on these mannequins like a real person, being able to feel strong pulses go from bounding to weaker and weaker and weaker. These kind of things, these adaptations that are happening, very high tech. It takes an operator, it takes someone to program these things, making sure all the connection is right from a control room into that simulation room and getting the students all the correct information because we want them to succeed. We want them to have this opportunity to grow and to learn. And it enriches that debrief so much more when everything works. So that's technology has blown up and students really appreciate it.
So go ahead,
Mike.
Matt.
No, you go ahead, Mike. It's your turn.
Okay. Yeah, we all today. So getting back to the simulation now, obviously it'll be really great for the nursing school at Grand Valley State University. Now, are you going to be sharing those simulations with other hospitals, nursing schools around the state, or how does that all play out?
So faculty will have the development of these clinical scenarios that will all run concurrently. So 6 sets of scenarios will be developed, 3 running concurrently in 6 rooms. Part of the responsibility of the HRSA grant is to obviously bring in colleagues. So our partners will help us develop the scenarios so that they are realistic and represent what is credible in clinical practice. And likewise, as we move through the grant period, we will share information that we've learned about the success of our students, their ability in competence building, our ability to replicate through the data that we're collecting. And then at the end of the time period, part of what we're going to be asked to do is to share our findings and to disseminate what we've grown. So there is some expectation, right, and obligation that when you receive federal funding, that in addition to sharing your results, you also share your findings. There are 23 other sites across the United States, a blend of both academic settings as well as clinical practice settings that have earned an award through HRSA for this grant. So they too will be sharing their experiences, and then I think everyone can benefit from this.
The one at Grand Valley, though, sounds really impressive. Large, 68,000 square feet. That number jumped out at me. So how is it laid out?
Go for it, Matt.
Yeah, so we have a simulated hospital suite. It's an 11-room hospital, and each room is outfitted with the equipment that you'd find in a hospital room. It's all working diagnostic equipment, the bed, even operating the bed. It would be something that we could practice in here than those types of beds you'd find in the clinical setting. They're also outfitted with cameras, speakers, and microphones. So everything that takes place in, let's say, our hospital room can be facilitated, operated, and monitored remotely. So students, after they go through a pre-brief, understand objectives and goals for the day, they're going to walk in to the room inpatient as a nurse, greet their standardized patient or their mannequin patient, go through their steps and really develop a patient care plan and administer that patient care plan. Everything behind the scenes is taking place so faculty can view what's going on in the room. They can communicate with the operator of the mannequin to prompt or to proceed through the scenario. And then our operators, they can hear, see, and communicate into the room. So we use standardized technical communicators is what we call them, but they are going to operate and voice for the mannequin. So they essentially will act as the patient in addition to operating them. That's a typical space. We have an assessment labs, 11 assessment labs, and we also have a 24-room outpatient exam area. It's essentially a 24-room doctor's office. So we can be versatile as far as what we do in those rooms, but typically we would bring in a standardized patient or a community member that's been trained to either portray themselves or a case.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kelly, tell me a little bit about, what your role is at the simulation center.
What I do is I make sure that everything that both Matt, Doug, and Trish talked about, make sure it all works in harmony. So getting everything patched between the exam room or the hospital suite into where our standardized technical communicators and faculty are and students who are observing, make sure all that background information is all set. We control all of the audio visual, so any of the cameras, the mics, the speakers, we would take care of that. A lot of the programming that we do with either the mannequins, we assist with that as needed. And then there are other technology in the Sim Center that we work to enhance our simulations and scenarios. It's just a lot of the background tech stuff that we don't see, but we know is there.
And I noticed also in the materials you sent us, you have Corewell Health as one of your clinical partners. That's formerly known as Spectrum, I believe. But you also have Pine Rest, which is a mental health facility. So talk a little bit about how this sort of simulation works in a mental health setting.
I think like any clinical situation, Matt, right, we are able to use mannequins and program them to respond as we would anticipate a patient or a community member would respond. So part of what we're hoping to do as we walk into this multiple patient simulation, as we focus on psych behavioral mental health, is the real reality, right, that all of us interface with people who have mental illness, both acute illness, but also chronic illness. And our ability to make the patient experience as realistic as is possible is really going to be aided by our partners helping us to appreciate what they're experiencing in their own practice settings so that we can replicate it through the mannequins and through the experience the students are having. So it's both acute and chronic illness in behavioral mental health. Many people across the country, as you well know, are facing mental health concerns, both those of great magnitude and those that we manage daily that others wouldn't even recognize us as having that chronic illness. So what we're hoping our practice partners are able to do is to bring sort of a realistic experience into these simulation suites with our students and to help us to develop the scenarios so that students can experience it first in the lab while they're in school with people around them, but also learn how to be the most effective care provider they're able to be. So both Corewell and Pine Rest are our partners. We have some amazing academy and scholarship programs with both of those organizations, as we do with Trinity Health and McLaren, and they've really been very committed to helping us learn how to help students feel more confident and be more prepared for their practice. And they're very willing to step in and help us with that. They actually benefit when we're able to support our students in that way, because when they come into the workforce, they feel more prepared, more confident, more able, and they are less likely to leave in that first 18 months. So I'm very grateful, honestly, and thank you for asking that, Matt.
Well,
Okay.
We're coming down to the end here. Any final questions that you want to throw out there, Matt?
No, I think we're good. If people want more information about all this and about the opportunities that you have there at the Simulation Center, is there a particular part of the GVSU website that they should go to?
I'm going to say we actually have an amazing website for the Interprofessional Sim Center, and that would be the place to start. If they have any questions, Matt, why don't you go ahead and give them your email address, and then you can get it to the right individual for us.
Yeah, we'll do our website. Kelly maintains that. It's gvsu.edu/sim center. And you can share my contact information as well if you'd like.
Sure,
Please.
absolutely.
Yeah, email is going to be my last name, Culver, COLLV as in Victor, ER, first initial M as in Matt, at gvsu.edu.